right, Jason, first thing I need you to do for me, please, state your name, spell it, also give me the title of your book.
Jason P. Theriot, Theriot. Title of the book is American Energy, Imperiled Coast, Oil and Gas Development in Louisiana's Wetlands. The book is essentially a history of the relationship between energy development, oil and gas development, and environmental change. So on one hand, you have energy development, oil and gas development along the coast of Louisiana. Since the 1930s, this has been a working energy coast, primarily for oil and gas exploration and production. And that energy feeds American consumption for oil and gas from the Gulf of Mexico. On the other hand, you have this imperiled coast, this sinking coastline that's been eroding and sinking into the Gulf of Mexico over the last 100 years. So essentially the story is integrating not only energy development but also environmental change and looking at the tension between oil and gas activities and restoration, protecting the coast of Louisiana, bridging those two together. So in the 1920s and early 1930s, when the industry moved into South Louisiana in a scenery similar to this, they came here in search of salt domes. There were prominent salt domes, some that were over 100 feet above natural sea level, like Weeks Island and Avery Island and Cote Blanche Island, which are in the area not too far from here. These were large prominent salt domes where early geologists had discovered pools of petroleum within the areas of these salt domes. In fact, Spindletop, the largest discovery in the Gulf Coast in 1901 in Beaumont, really proved the fact that salt domes created these geological conditions, such as creating sediment traps and these underlying subsurface faults where oil and gas would pool over time. When the oilmen moved into coastal Louisiana in the late 1920s and 1930s, they found many of these salt domes, but most of the big pools were actually on the fringes, several miles out in diameter in the low-lying marshes. Trembling prairies is basically the delta marshland, where a man would sink underneath his own weight. So imagine bringing in these huge, heavy drilling equipment into a very fragile marsh ecosystem. So this is very difficult. So they had to adapt. They had to develop new innovations, new ideas. Required an entire fleet of marine boats, which is where the Cajun people took off.